What's going on, team? Matt here from the PT Profit, Leverage, and Lifestyle Show. I've got an absolute superstar with me today, Mr. Daniel Henderson. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning?
Mate, thank you so much for having me, Matt. I am superb and I'm really looking forward to this episode and having some fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much for accepting the opportunity to jump on the podcast. So I'd love to dive straight into your story. You've obviously been in the industry for a long time with I believe a couple of gyms yourself, and then obviously doing some business coaching for other trainers as well. Can you give us a bit of a summary of what you've done and I suppose what you're up to now?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to do so. So, yeah, I've been in the industry 18 years. I refer to myself as a dinosaur. I started as a PT out the back of my car. So, had a sport and exercise management degree from university, did an honors degree in human movement, had a corporate job, but I just loved training people. So, I became a mobile personal trainer. I just do it after work, before work, on the weekends. And I did that for about 18 months. And I saw this tiny, tiny little vacant shop in Sydney's eastern suburbs. And I just thought this would be a perfect personal training studio. So I took all my life savings at the time. It wasn't a whole lot, it was about $20,000 to open this tiny little training studio. I quit my well paid job and I opened and I became a business owner. And that was just an extraordinary journey for me. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about business. And I quickly realized, whilst I was a pretty good coach because I really cared, uh, I was a shit business owner. And all my answer to everything was work harder, just work harder. And I always had a big work ethic. And the result of that was I was becoming burnt out. And after 18 months of having that facility, yeah, we were seeing some growth and I was starting to pay myself a little, but I was cooked. I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 7, 8 at night. I was working 6 days a week in the studio itself. And I was just completely and utterly cooked. So after 18 months, I was like, there's got to be a better way in terms of running the studio itself. And I sought out mentors. I read every professional development book I could get my hand on. And I was fortunate enough to build that facility. And over the course of the next 9 years, I had it for 10 years, that original facility. And we're going back now 7 years as well, thereabouts. We were doing about 600 grand out of there. I was doing over 6 figures net profit. And I was barely working in it at the time. So I'd really transformed myself from a technician to a business owner. And that's what that studio gave me. I made a really successful exit from that studio as well. So I was able to sell it for a 2.5 times multiple because it was running on its own, because I had really great net profit. And that was key for me because I was embarking already on the next kind of chapter in my journey within the fitness industry. And I wrote Australia's first ever kettlebell course in 2008. A lot of people would use kettlebells now, wouldn't know that they weren't in the industry then. But I picked up the tool actually from my business partner at the time, Tarek. We co-wrote the course, and as a result of that, we just started getting all these wonderful opportunities. So gyms were calling us from not only all around Australia, but then all around the world, and were saying, "Hey, like we see you've got this certification. Can you come and deliver it for us?" And so we then started a company which later evolved to a business called Functional Training Institute. At one stage, we had about 30 staff, about 20 facilitators. We were operating in 16 different countries. We did a lot of different license deals in many different regions as well. And so I had really both. I had the studio going, but I also had that at the same time. And so that was my next kind of business that I really got to cut my teeth on. Learned how to do licensing deals, learned how to scale a multi-million-dollar business, and learn a lot again about myself and about others. And then 3 years ago, I sold that business. And I sold it to my business partner. He still owns and operates it today. And it really was to focus much more on the coaching and mentoring side. So I've been coaching and mentoring other fitness business owners for 7 years, but it was always on the side. It was always whilst I had my studio or whilst I had the Functional Training Institute. And I wanted to deliver and do that full time. And so for the last 3 years, that's what I've been largely doing. I did have another gym in between as well. I do own another business called Filex, which is an events business. But where I spend about, and I do own a digital marketing agency as well, but where I spend a majority of my time is in the coaching space. So we've got a business called Fitness Profit. We have two coaching programs, one more for the independent PT, another one more for the studio gym owner that's looking to scale and create a lot of leverage through team. And then we've got a digital marketing agency called Academy, where we actually run the ads on behalf of our clients as well. So, mate, that's my journey. I know there's a lot there, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I didn't realize you're doing so many things.
I do. I've always got lots of things on the hop. So yeah, right now, Fitness Profit is one business. Filex is the second business. Academy is the third business. I've gotten out of all my gyms now, so that I'm not doing any client-facing work. And then I do a couple of joint venture and passion projects mixed in there as well.
Very nice. Very cool. Um, One thing that we were talking about, obviously, before we started doing the podcast is, a lot of people that are coming into our network and people that listen to this podcast are more looking for more leverage or a bit more lifestyle, I suppose. And
Mm.
obviously, with you being able to scale yourself out of the gyms, and then obviously create more leverage to now do obviously the passion projects, etc. I wanted to dive into your thoughts on leverage, whether it's team or whether it's like for me personally, like we've got a couple of VAs that work for us. So for the independent PTs who are currently running everything on their own, running solo, what are your thoughts on like the whole leverage model, whether it's building an actual team, whether it's hiring other trainers, or whether it's perhaps hiring virtual assistants, as an example?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And it's one of the things I love. I love creating leverage in businesses. So a lot of the time people will have a cap, and that cap is how many sessions can I deliver, for example, within a weekly period. And maybe some people can get to 30, 40, 50, 60 sessions in a week, but ultimately their cap is how much time and energy they have available. What I love to do is explore opportunities of creating leverage. And for me, there's two main forms of leverage. And then there's a couple of amplifications on this. So, number one is the most tried, tested way that we know. It's been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that is team members. So, on one side, we have team members, and then on the other side, you've actually got your business model that you can create leverage as well. The amplifications that I'm talking about are technology, number one, and then number two is social media and building a personal brand. And so when I look to create leverage within a business, it's going to be based on a few things. Number one, the business model is the easiest to do. So, really simple examples is, if you're coaching people one-on-one, can we switch that from a one-on-one model to a semi-private model? So we go 1 to 3, 1 to 4, we double, or in some cases, I've tripled, quadruple hourly rates, right? I brought semi-private training into Australia, oh, about 12 years ago, maybe a little longer. I think I was one of the, if not the first, at least one of the first people to bring semi-private training into Australia. And I still believe it is the smartest business model in 2025. I really do. Just because of the margins and how much impact you can have. So business model might be one, semi-private is an example. Other example is a hybrid. I think every business should be hybrid. So you shouldn't just be training people. There should be an online component to what you do, and that should be charged accordingly. That's not part of your session membership. That's an addition that people should have. And that's, all the support that they get between sessions. What are they doing on their own? What's their nutrition? What's their rest like? What's their recovery like? What's their stress management? All of those areas. Because if you're only doing exercise, then your service is falling short. So there are a couple of business model things that we can do. And so I'll always start with business model because it's easier because, I'm just dealing with the business owner at that point in time. Once we've got nailed the business model with the appropriate margins, because most people don't have enough margin in their business. That's the other struggle they have. You can't go and add team to a business that has shit margins and has a bad business model. So we've got to get that right. Then we can start to add team members. But most people add the wrong team members initially. So what do we traditionally add first? We add a coach. Why? Because that's what we know. All right, I'm going to hire another personal trainer. I'm not a believer in this. I actually believe you should get some administrative support first and foremost. That can be onshore, that can be offshore. I'm a huge advocate of offshore. I've had virtual assistants now for probably about 6, 7 years. We've got 4 in our business, 2 that work directly with me, and they are the engine in our business. So anything administrative like payments, suspensions, cancels, anything like signing up new members, just all the administrative stuff should be done by a virtual assistant or a local assistant. Anything that is like bookkeeping oriented, paying bills, payroll, anything that's graphic design, all of that should be off your plate. And we got to move you into higher yielding tasks. All right. And so that's the first person, because now all of a sudden, if I offshore it, let's say it's $10 an hour. I know we can do a lot less than that. But if I'm doing 4 or 5 hours a week of admin of payments that I now can offshore for $50 a week, that then opens up more opportunities for me, even if I was to do coaching. That's at least, the models that we create, people are not going to be coaching for less than $150 per unit of time. So you've already like gone from you're paying $50 to go and make another $600 a week. So that's the first person you hire. Once that's in place, obviously there's a lot to hiring. I could talk for days on hiring and making sure we get the right people on the right seats of the bus. Then we start bringing in the coaches as well. So in terms of scaling a business, it really depends on what the person's goals are, what their strengths are, and then choosing the best appropriate model for them. But I'd always start with business model, their pricing, their package, how are they creating leverage? Do they go from one to one to one to few? Do we go from just face to face, add a hybrid component to it, then start to create leverage by getting stuff off your plate? First, it should be admin, then move into the coaching. Don't outsource your marketing and sales. All right. Eventually you will, but these are the last things that you should be bringing in team members for. And when I say marketing, I don't mean outreach or graphic design. I mean like high level strategic marketing, copywriting, creating funnels, that stuff you should be doing. And so really, when I have a client, it's like, all right, let's do the business model. Then we'll add the team if you want the team, because more team members does equal more complexity at times, because now you've got to manage different personalities, payroll, and all of those things. And then how do we amplify it, right? So technology piece is important because that facilitates the hybrid model, for example. And so now we can do more with less. And then I'm very bullish right now on personal brand. I'm really saying 2025, if you don't have it, it's the year to build your personal brand, because when you have a big personal brand, selling becomes very easy. And selling whatever you want almost becomes very easy, and selling at high prices becomes very easy.
100%. Just on the personal brand side of things, we were talking before we started about all the things that I'm doing, and I'm just curious from your perspective. And sorry to put you on the spot, but what are your
No.
thoughts on the stuff that I'm doing? Because I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing organic, I'm doing obviously ads. But when you say personal brand, and I'm just being selfish here by asking you this, but
No.
what do you think about what I'm doing in terms of building a personal brand?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed you a lot, right? And so that's the first thing, is just like that's good. You've got my attention. And I like that you've got different mediums for different purposes, right? And so you said at the beginning, like podcasts, you're not going to get hundreds of people sign up to your coaching because of the podcast. But what it does do is it creates rapport, it creates a relationship, it indoctrinates people. And so it's a nice nurturer, like you said, similar to my podcast. I don't get loads of people signing up to my coaching because of my podcast, but it creates so much a relationship equity for me. But that's not going to help me get clients this week. So then you've got to run paid ads, for example, to get new prospects in the funnel, listening to the podcast and getting them to know, like, and trust you. You got to master organic. And so when it comes to personal brand, you've got to do a lot, like you are, and you've got to make sure that we're aware of the marketing funnel and that we've got different pieces at different stages of the marketing funnel. So you've got top of funnel, you're doing some great stuff, top of funnel, ads, all right. You've got middle of funnel, which is going to be more podcast. And then bottom of funnel, we were talking before, you're going to run some events. Great. Now we've got an ecosystem that works across all three layers of the marketing funnel. So I can create relationships with people that may be just wanting more information right now. I can be creating relationships with people that are actually looking for a solution as well. And the great people at building personal brands right now are doing like they're content machines. If you have a look out there, you know, there's people in our space, people that I respect, people like a James Smith or an EBT or a Brian Mark, right? They're doing a lot and they're doing it at very high quality from an organic perspective, and then they're going to have some different mediums to support that organic content.
Yeah. I was speaking of Brian Mark. I'm actually just about to watch a training on him just after this. But as far as I know, and this is what he does, like he posts 6 times a day on Instagram. So his main funnel is through Instagram. But then obviously he does some paid ads as well. But he has and not obviously not everyone can get to this stage right now, but he has someone following him around like pretty much every single day shooting content. Like his pretty much majority of his time, like 30 to 40 hours a week, is just making content. So if that doesn't tell you what's important.
Yeah, and like Dan Martell just came to Australia, right? Dan, I did not see a photo or a video with of Dan Martell in Australia without his videographer. Like that is what you have to have your own media company right now. Now, maybe you're a solo PT and you're like, well, I can't do that. That's okay. You've got an iPhone, right? So right now, it's like it's never been easier. All the filming that I do now is on my iPhone. I've got a lapel mic, I've got an iPhone, I've got a stand. You know, it costs nothing to set up, and then I've got a virtual assistant who will do all the editing and then do all the posting. Right? Like it's very, very cost effective these days. And you know, there's a few clients of mine that are really starting to hone in on this. And when you do, as I said, everything gets easier. Once you've got that personal brand, the sale becomes easier. The opportunities coming your way are plentiful. And so when you build a personal brand, just make sure it's you. Don't build somebody else's personal brand. Don't be a James Smith. There's only one James Smith, right? Just make sure it's you. Be really authentic, but at the same time, you've got to be different. You've got to provide value in the market.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I talk to my clients about is majority of your content should just be providing value. Because if you can solve someone's problem for free, imagine what they're going to think of you, and imagine subconsciously they're going to want to work with you as well because they're like, oh, what else can he actually help me with? If he's solved this problem for me with recovery, for example, what about my training? What about my nutrition, etc., etc.
Absolutely, yeah. Just I'm a huge believer, and it took me a little while to really uh, realize this, but I'm a massive believer in just give, 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 give. You know, you've got the permission to ask, but just give tons of value. And I couldn't tell you how many clients have joined our program because they said they enjoyed my free content. They were just like, oh, you're just like always providing value. So that's why I wanted to reach out. And it's just like the relationships and the equity and the depth that you build by just giving tons of value in advance is significant.
Yeah, 100%. One of the mentors that I'm working with at the moment, Taki Moore. Have you heard of Taki Moore? Do you know him?
I've been to Taki's house in Noosa.
Yeah.
So I joined Black Belt when I first started coaching, and it was absolutely life changing for me from a coaching place. I then went away for a few years, and then I went back and did boardroom for a little while. Jumped back into Black Belt. Did his retreat at his house in Noosa. So got a massive amount of respect for Taki. He's an absolute wizard when it comes to marketing and just I think he's just wonderful at explaining things very simply in a very entertaining way.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm in black belt now, which has been a really good experience so far. But one of the things that he said recently is I can't remember the percentage, but if someone can watch 40, I think it was 47 minutes of your content, whether it's binged or whether it's over a certain amount of time, there's like it's like a 30% increase in sales. But if you don't have that content available, whether it's podcast or whether it's reels or whatever, then it's going to take the prospect so much longer to be ready to buy from you. So if you've got, all the content there and you're producing all this content and they can just binge, which people will binge. They'll just, if they see something
Mm.
good, they'll just keep watching more of your stuff. Um, then it's a faster chance they're going to buy from you. So in terms of like a solo PT, you mentioned obviously you're outsourcing the editing for social media. I do the same thing as well for a VA. Um, where's a good place to start? So if someone's like, obviously you obviously just use an iPhone, which is great. Same here. But is that as simple as it is? Just literally grab your phone, start recording some content, just post it up, and then outsource the editing after that, or should you outsource straight away?
Yeah, it's. I think there's four components, four stages. I haven't heard this model presented before, so I'll claim it as my own. I believe there's four stages in content creation, and three of those stages you delegate and can outsource. One of them you should never. And that is the first stage. That is the actual concept creation, right? So you should be the one writing the script. You should be the one in the video. You should be the one writing the hook, writing the value piece, writing the call to action. It's got to be your authentic voice. Okay. Right now, a lot of people are outsourcing it to either AI or agencies, and it all sounds generic and diluted, and you just get lost amongst the noise. So that's stage one. Stage two is then you give that to somebody to curate it. No, but like all these trainers listening right now, you didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be an amazing video editor. I'm going to be an amazing graphic designer. No, that's not what you want to do. That's not where you want to be. So let's give it to people that do that stuff really well. You can use Fiverr, you can use Upwork, you don't have to hire someone on Teams straight away, but you can get this stuff edited super cheap, right? Then I have somebody schedule and post it. All right. Uh, they'll do it all for me. So, I'll open up my Instagram probably after this podcast and there'll be a post on there. I didn't put it on there because I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing things more valuable. And then I'll have somebody interact on it. And what I mean interact is, if there's opportunities to take conversations offline, to interact in the comments, welcome new followers because of the post and all of those things, then I have a team member to do that. So they're my four stages of content creation. They're very, very cost effective stages two, three, four. Like that, it's not going to cost you a lot to get a decent reel produced. It really isn't. Like you could be getting it done at 10, 15, $20. And you've got something that is high quality, something that is posted, and you've just spent the half an hour on writing out the script and actually filming it. So that's the way to, again, create leverage. What we were talking about before is only do the things that you can do. Try to do, try to structure your week so you're in your zone of genius, and then delegate the rest.
100%. And then you'll be a lot more fulfilled doing that type of stuff as well, right? Because you're actually spending time doing the stuff that you enjoy, whether it's the highest income tasks as well. As you said, obviously sales and marketing should be outsourced last. And I completely agree because people want to buy from you, right? If they see
Yeah.
all your content and then you're jumping on a call with Joe Blow and there's no rapport there, and then there's a potential missed opportunity there as well. But there's obviously a time and place to to do that. But in terms of, you mentioned obviously AI a little bit there. Obviously that's a massive thing, continuously growing and getting better as time goes on. What do you use AI for, and what do you think personal trainers could use AI for?
Yeah, look, there's a lot, and it's such an emerging space as well. I only did a podcast on it the other week. Yeah, I think it's fantastic for content creation. I really do, but that comes with a warning label. If you use it in a generic manner, you will do your brand great harm because I can pick ChatGPT content so easily. Generic content. So what is the difference between generic and then helping it, actually utilizing it to find your voice? You've got to train it. and you've got to train it on a couple of things. Number one, you've got to give it great context. So there's a lot of people wouldn't know, but there's, you go into the settings of ChatGPT and you tell it what industry you're in, what your tone of voice is, who you serve. You then make sure that it understands your avatar particularly well. And so I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, to speak to my avatar, what do you need to know about them? And it asked me 22 different questions. Took me a good hour to complete, but I now know that ChatGPT knows my avatar and can speak to them accordingly. I also like to give it. I also like to give it a role, and so I'll say, imagine you're a social media marketer, or imagine you're a copywriter. All right, I need you to create this. So you got to give it a lot of context, and I will feed a lot into it. So I will get a lot of my transcripts, my podcast transcripts, my YouTube transcripts, and I'll feed it into it. And I'll like, I want you to understand my voice. I want you to understand my tone. And so the better context it has, the more it can perform for you. Uh, I like it for ideation. It helps create inertia for me. So, if I'm stuck on a little bit, I'll be like, all right, these are my last 10 reels that got, 2,000 plus views. I want you to observe the hooks. I want you to observe the value components and the calls to action. Um, the problems of my avatar. I need 10 ideas. Imagine you're a social media marketer helping me go viral. I need 10 different ideas for my next reels in that format. And so to use it from a content creation perspective, you got to spend a little time. Like I say to all my clients, spend 2 hours. I've got a training on it. Train it on the target market. Train it on your settings. Upload as much context as you can. You're going to get way better results. And then it's also very good, and I'm just kind of talking about ChatGPT at the moment here as well, is it's also very, very good to upload a lot of data. So we were speaking about a colleague of both of ours, a friend of both of ours, Blake Randall. He does this particularly well. He'll get a table and he'll be like, all right, these are my targets that I want to hit for the business. These are what my current numbers are. He'll upload the tables and then it will do an interpretation for him and go, well, this is what you need to do to accomplish and achieve that. So it's very, very good from that perspective as well. AI bots, AI calling is getting more and more popular. I don't think it's where it needs to be though right now. It's not quite there. And again, I think, I was speaking to a client yesterday, big client. They've just got a Go high level chatbot. It's utilizing AI and they were burning leads because the chatbot was making these little mistakes along the way. So I think that technology from being outstanding is probably another 12 months away. They'll do outbound calls for you. Again, I think it's a little bit away, but it's coming. So be prepared for it. It's already here. I just don't think it's where it needs to be to get the results that you want. But for every independent business owner out there listening, every business owner really, use it from a content creation, ideation vehicle, use it to interpret data. And then I like to use it as a sounding board as well, as like, hey, like I need this, I've got to make this business decision. This is my rationale. What assumptions have I made? What have I missed? What are my blind spots that I may not be aware of right now? And it helps me see things that I haven't seen myself.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very similar. I use it for a lot of to brainstorm ideas or to get stuff
Mm,
out of my head.
mm.
But if I'm like, I don't know, if I'm like a little bit confused on what I should do, I'm like, cool. I do the similar thing. I use a few prompts to try and get it in the right mindset to make an educated um, response, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, and keep prompting. That's the other thing. Like, don't just prompt once. Prompt and prompt and prompt. And we've got lots of prompts that we give our clients, but prompt engineering is going to be one of the big fields in 2025. Like the better you are and the more proficient you are with your prompts, the better the outcomes.
Yeah, 100%. We talked a fair bit, obviously, around leverage team and obviously a little bit about AI. Curious from your perspective in terms of um, personal training, in terms of people wanting to go online rather than do face to face. It's obviously becoming more and more popular, I suppose. Um, what in your experience? Obviously, it's challenging to make the transition from face to face to online, but do you have any thoughts on how people can make the transition from face to face to online successfully?
Yeah, and look, I'm really big on this. Is I don't believe it's just an all or nothing, right? I don't believe you just go, all right, well, I'm a face-to-face personal trainer, and now I want to go completely online next week, right? I would introduce what we were saying before is a hybrid option. So I'll give you an example. I've got a fantastic coaching client. She works up in Brisbane in Total Fusion. And she said the same thing. She's like, Dan, I just want to create I just want online. So when I go overseas, when I'm taking some time off, I want to be producing some income. And I just want to see the ratio of my face to face and online go from, I think she had a handful when she started with me, like 90-10 to, maybe like 50-50. And I was like, well, number one, we just need a really clear, like, why are we separating face to face and online? Let's have a really clear, like, if anyone wants to train with you face to face from this point on, it's going to be a hybrid model. That allows us to develop the online model. It allows us to get really clear on how we're doing our check-ins, what kind of app are we using, what's the rhythm of our communication. We can price and package accordingly. So anybody out there that has a desire to go to online, start right now, right? Start with your current clients. Offer a hybrid solution. Every new prospect that comes into your business, offer a hybrid solution. All right, in and around it. So that way you can develop. You may end up still be doing, a couple of grand face to face, but now over a period of time, you've grown that online hybrid component to $1,000. That would be the first initial step. The second step would be, and it kind of comes back to what we were talking about before with the personal brand. I've got another client, and he's done about $100,000 just in online in the last 6 months. He's a gym owner, but he just started doing a lot more content on his own personal profile, and he really did like super valuable content, a lot of whiteboard sessions, and just leveraged his personal profile and then position the online, not the gym. So you got to start thinking about, all right, outside of my, say, the commercial gym that I'm working in, how am I going to sign online clients? And you got to start building whatever that mechanism or medium is going to be. And for a lot of people, I think organic content on Instagram is the go. I really do. So I've got a couple of clients, Aaron Cooper, Jai Lee, that have got really good face-to-face businesses, but now they're building really solid personal brands, putting really good content consistently together. But there's frequent calls to action. There's frequent blunt posts. There's frequent stories with polls that we then outbound DM, and then we can grow the online component off the back of that. So I would really do two major steps. Anyone's got an aspiration to grow that online component of the business. Number one, just introduce it now. Introduce it to your current clients, introduce it to all new prospects, go back through your database, anybody you might have done any discovery sessions with, and offer them the online alternative. Start pitching it when you price present as well. You've got a hybrid option. If you get any price objections, then you've got an online objection. You can do an A or B sell on the back of it. The second part is start really thinking about how are you going to acquire these online clients if you want to go 100% online in the future. All right, what's going to be the mechanism to do so? Right now, as I said, personal brands on Instagram. We talked about people like Brian Mark. He's a great example of it. All right, is get really good at building your audience and then putting out offers. And then when you make that transition, you've already got a base to go to.
Love it. So good. And what's the plans for you this year? Like what are you hoping to achieve this year? Obviously you got a few things going on, but where do you see yourself going in the next 12 months?
Yeah, for us, one of the key outcomes is to grow our coaching business, grow our digital marketing agency. So we've got some pretty, I won't say optimistic, but we've got some pretty significant growth plans on those. I spoke, offline before. I've got 15 events. I'm running events in live events. These are face-to-face live events in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Auckland over the next little while. So I run 2 days. One day is just for people that are interested in learning about marketing, offer creation, sales. You don't have to be a coaching client. They're actually more targeted towards people that aren't coaching clients. And then I do the next day, I just spend a full day with our coaching clients. So for me, what's really important is growing our core business. The way that we're going to do so is we're just going to continue to serve our community, get them amazing results. I love doing live events. I love meeting people. I love being in a room with people. I love sharing. I love giving. So I'm going to be doing a lot of live events this year. I think I'll do about 35 live events in 2025, which is
So good.
very, very exciting. So they're the main things, and then a couple of little passion projects in there as well. I own Filex, so we'll do a big business summit. We'll do a big leadership summit, and I will do a retreat for very high level business owners as well. So there's some of the exciting projects we've got coming up.
That's awesome. So if anyone wants to follow along the journey, where's the best place to follow you or contact you? Um,
I'm super active on the socials. So at Coach Dan Henderson on Instagram. It's to just confuse you guys on Facebook. It is Daniel Henderson. So it's at Coach Dan Henderson on Instagram. On Facebook, it's Daniel Henderson. And then business website is just Fitness Profit, and we've got a podcast as well, Profit Made Simple. So yeah, I'll make sure I get you all of those details, and yeah, say hello. Let me know that you've heard the podcast, and I'd love to hear what was helpful for you, what was valuable for you.
awesome. Thank you again for your time.
Absolute pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Champion.